meeting to order. Because of our Zoom meeting, I guess let's start with amendments to the agenda. And given our issue with Zoom, maybe we can move public comments down later to, perhaps we can make that agenda item right above agenda item 17. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Perfect.
Great. Are there other amendments to the agenda?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to approval of the meeting minutes. I believe everyone has a copy. Would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, very good. Let's move on to board member reports. And Steve, how about we start with you?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For my report, just a few small items, but a reminder for everyone that might be going to the CAOA conference. That's where we're going to be having our next meeting. That's going to be Steamboat Springs, June 18th and 20th, or 18th through 20th, and should be a really good conference, so look forward to that. One more update for you on Den as far as the conversion from the old AFFF foam that had the PFAS to the fluorine-free foam that we've got now available. We finally finished our conversion of all of our ARF rigs to that fluorine-free foam. So it's hard for me to say still, but it's done. We did learn a lot about it. A couple of key points that as we worked through that transition, we found that other airports probably would be interested in if they've got to do anything similar. FAA did came out with a directive that we have to do output-based testing of the truck after the conversion is done. It's kind of a mess, really, because everybody is kind of, once we learned about PFAS, they transitioned to more of that internal testing, input-based testing. And with the output-based testing, we're taking that new foam, which has no fluorine, but it's still something that makes a mess that we have to take into account as it relates to our water permitting and things like that. So, and it takes a lot of it to be sprayed out. So it's kind of a mess. We're working through how we're going to do that moving forward. I think we're about done with it, but I know others will face that same thing, same challenges. So we'll share what we learned from that. And the other thing that I think is going to be important for airports to watch is the way that new foam acts. It is not at all the same as the old AFFF, which was really awesome and amazing for putting out fires. It just, the way it coats fuel and forms one barrier, one sheet over the top of any fuel that's out there. With this new foam, it's not the same. It's not as durable. And when you've got two different parts of the foam mat that you put out coming together, that separation, they don't just meld together. There's still a separation, and sometimes the fire can actually burn underneath it for quite a while. So the firefighters have to use a lot of new techniques to make sure they manage that coating of foam during some sort of a fire or potential fire where they're watching the fuel that's at risk. So we're learning about that. Lots to share, I'm sure, as we move forward with that. But at least we're done with that transition, which is a big step for Denver International Airport. We will be sharing information with anybody else that's interested, other airports that are interested. So if there are any questions, I may not have the specific answers, but I know people that have them. So I'll send you to the right spot. And then the last thing, just an update for Den on the terminal redevelopment. That is going to be an ongoing process. You know, construction at the airport is constant. It's good things that are being produced out of it, but it's a slow process, and it's kind of, it feels like we're doing a construction project in our living room, in our kitchen, while we're still having the dinner parties all the time. So it's pretty rough. But we do expect that east checkpoint to open up around August. They've already started the next phase of construction, which is dealing with the south end of the terminal. And that is producing the need to move airline ticketing to level 5 for some airlines. That's a temporary condition, but temporary as in possibly a couple of years before they can move back to their normal places. So with that, I'm sorry, one more thing that I just got today that I didn't want to forget. So thanks to all of the airports last year that participated in that FOD contest that we had. There's another FOD challenge is back. It's a little bit different timing. Daniel sent a great, I think one of the first submittals that we got with the snake and that sort of thing. Everett is eligible too, so if you find something worthy.
Really?
Yes.
Can't plan.
You can't stage it.
We could get real creative. I mean,
Park the car.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming, I think they're looking for July 1st as the deadline to submit your pictures of the foreign object debris that is most interesting. So just wanted to toss that out. I'll try to share that as we go as well. That's my update for today. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Kevin?
Nothing to report. Small housekeeping item. I don't think we'll be still meeting at 3, but if we are, I'll need to step out for a client call.
Mark?
Well, I think everybody is painfully aware in the last several months, the number of incidents that have happened around the country have really brought a lot of attention to safety and to the air traffic control system. And so recently, Senator Ted Cruz and Jerry Moran, both senators, asked the aviation industry to comment about their views on improving safety and the efficiency of the NAS, of the National Airspace System. 46 organizations came together to put together this letter. I don't think I've ever seen
That's crazy.
a list of 46 of all these different industry groups and associations who's put together a 6-page letter that really, this letter talks about focusing on robust funding for technology, infrastructure, and workforce. Of course, workforce is a big issue. It also talks about acquisition and budget reform that's needed. Again, the industry's point of view of that, facility realignment, and then the issue of what happens about government shutdown and protecting the NAS from that. So this is a great, it's a very informative letter. If you can find it online, but if you can't find it, give me a shout and I'll send you a copy of it. But again, to see that all these groups come together with such a concise view on what can be done to help, I think is going to be very valuable for DOT and for the government to take a look at. On the unleaded fuel issue, a couple things since we met last of significance. In California, the FAA ruled that Santa Clara County violated the federal grant assurances when they banned the sale of 100 low lead and have ordered that to be reinstated. Also, at the same time, and through reauthorization, of course, Congress has mandated federally funded airports must continue to sell 100 low lead through 2030. In Alaska, it's 2032. So, so that's a pretty significant event. And at the same time, California Superior Court judge ruled against the effort to prevent FBOs from replacing the sale of 100 low lead with the GAMI G100 unleaded. And that was a request from the Center for Environmental Health. The fuel still lacks the ASTM production standard, and industry really hasn't been fully vetted this new the GAMI fuel, and that's the fuel distributors, the FBOs, of course, the aircraft and engine manufacturers. So that work continues. In addition, there's challenge that there's two fuels that are in a very limited way being sold in the marketplace, the Swift UL 94 unleaded, and then GAMI, and they don't mix, and so there's a safety issue related with that. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions and concerns that are really being addressed through the testing process, through the PAFI process, and the oversight of the FAA Eagles initiative. So work continues there, but and there's also University of North Dakota wrote a I think there's 17 Seminoles, which is a twin engine, that they took to into using Swift UL 94, and then have backed away from that because of some issues they found with that. But it's an excellent. I think it's a great paper for the airports to take a look at about the steps that they took, the methodologies that they and the testing that they did. So there is progress being made in that regard. There's a couple things that happened over the last month and a half that really showcase aviation in Colorado. First, Redbird Simulators had their annual customer conference. They call it the Migration at Wings Exploration Flight at Centennial Airport, and they had 275 flight schools and educators from around the country that came in for that, but also all the association, the big association leads came in for a leadership panel. Jack Pelton from EAA, Darren Pleasance who runs AOPA, Pete Bunce, who is on his way out, actually Pete Bunce from GAMA, the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. He retired yesterday, but he was on that panel. Jim Viola, who replaces Pete, but also was running the Vertical Aviation International Association, so he's moved over. He was part of that, and then Kurt Castaneda from NATA. So we had these leaders at Centennial Airport. I've heard our friend Dave Ulane give presentations many times, but man, he knocked it out of the park when he talked about aviation in Colorado, about what the division does. Dave is probably one of the best presentations I've seen you give, and and with that audience, they couldn't have come at a better time. So we got good national attention from that event, and then I'm not going to try to steal too much of your thunder.
Oh, it's okay.
But on March 27th through the 29th, Women in Aviation had their annual conference over at the Gaylord. More than 5,000 attendees. They had 170 exhibitors and gave away 93 scholarships, which is kind of cool. I went to, on Saturday, they had Girls in Aviation for young women, and so I took my granddaughter, who's 14, to that, and so I got to experience, it was a wonderful event. So again, an opportunity for us to show off aviation state. On the subject of scholarships, Wings or the Rockies, the Captain Jevons Foundation has finished their scholarship process. Again, I thank everybody for putting that word out. We had 159 applicants, did 52 interviews, and gave out 28 scholarships ranging from $6,000 to $12,000. 14 of those to boys, 14 of them to girls, and so that was nice to see that, and from all over the state. So that went well. And then my last thing is just note that Metro State, the aerobatics team won the 2024 Collegiate National Aerobatic Championship. This is number 5, the 5th time that they've been champion over the last 8 years. They're flying a game bird, which Sean has that's the picture that's on the cover. That airplane was donated by an anonymous source last year. So these kids are flying, probably one of the most high performance aerobatic airplanes in production. But those of you who know Dagmar Kress, Dagmar is just beaming. She's the coach of the team. So it's another, again, place that we're really, really proud of. So, and last comment, just on a personal note, the Colorado Skies Academy drone team was in Lakeland, Florida at the Sun and Fun, and they won the world championship for drone soccer.
Wow.
Last week, I guess it was. So I don't know much more than that, but it's pretty exciting. So Colorado's touching lots of different, being exposed to a lot of different places around the country. Thank you.
Bree, go ahead.
Not much to report. I took myself in a non-official capacity to the Aviation Noise and Emissions Symposium in Vegas, which I think was about a month ago. It was very interesting, and I don't mean to contradict some of what you're saying, but a lot of it was, I think, a different perspective on some of what you touched on regarding some of the updates on the unleaded fuel developments. One very interesting thing that has really stuck with me, and I do have recordings of all these meetings, which I'm happy to provide to anybody so you don't have to take my word for it and get sort of a more in-depth perspective on this. The thing I found most interesting was that they said that there hasn't been one recorded safety incident that can be related to unleaded fuel to date, not a single one. So I think we hear a lot of speculation about things that have happened, and to date there hasn't been a single one of those. So I think that's great, that's encouraging. I think we, in the state of Colorado, we're obviously having to move forward with that transition, and I think we can move forward knowing that that's not going to be, as to this point, impacting the safety of pilots, which I think is obviously very important and of concern to everybody here and everybody in the community as well. One of the points that was made is that I realize the ASTM certification is of concern, but the comment was made that, the FAA wouldn't have approved the GAMI fuel if it wasn't safe and usable. So that is something to be considered. I did have an opportunity to talk to Eric Peterson, who's the airport director for Santa Clara County, and this ruling has come out since then, so I'm sure this does somewhat change things. I've talked with Dave about potentially having him speak to the airports here, not about the grant assurance violations, but just he had a different perspective on the actual logistics of making the transition to unleaded fuel, which I think is really of interest to all of the airports here, because I understand, we want to get the lead out, but what does that actually mean on a logistical basis? And he brought up that, Santa Clara County was in the position where their FBO's leases were expiring, so the county was able to step in and run the FBOs themselves, so they didn't have to negotiate on making that transition. Those are the kind of details that I understand are really of interest to the airport operators here. And so we're going to try to work to see if maybe he's definitely willing. I realize there's just going to be a scheduling issue here, but he's willing to offer some of that advice to the state, which I think hopefully will help make it a little bit easier, at least to offer some advice on how we can continue to move forward in that direction here. Same goes for the Naples Airport in Florida. They've also moved towards, they offer unleaded fuel alternatives. They're not solely offering unleaded fuel, but they've also made that offer to offer advice to any airport operator here. So hopefully we can make that introduction and just, I realize there are nuts and bolts that come with making that transition here, and as much as we can offer advice from people who have done that, and I know Centennial has, and they're also a great resource, but I do understand that is, where the rubber meets the road. As much as I can help people get information to that, I would love to be able to make that transition. I was very happy to see the Centennial Airport noise team there. We learned a lot. There's a lot of services being offered. I've talked to a lot of airports locally that don't know about the grant program that was instituted here last year, offsetting some of the costs of the noise, in the flight tracking software that we do here at the state. So I think if there's some ability for us to reach out and make sure that airports that qualify for that know that that's something that they can get support with, I think that would be great. People do not.
We have done that multiple times, to be clear.
Yeah, it's funny.
The airports are not listening to our missives. I don't know what else to do, but we have communicated that multiple times at multiple conferences. So I want to make sure that we're clear that everybody knows that we have shared that far and wide.
I am very.
If there's an airport manager that doesn't know,
yes,
I will make a personal visit.
Yes, anecdotally, they seem completely unaware of this. And
Oh, well,
I know that it is
okay.
not due to a lack of the divisions reaching out about this information, but
That's good to know, though. That will help us, so.
yes, does seem to be following up.
You know?
There you go. Stepped out.
That's one less trip.
One check out.
Anyway, it was great to have a perspective on what this looks like from a national level with airports sort of varying size and scope, and just kind of see what that looks like for the picture. So that was a great learning experience for me. I'm happy to see.
How many, the conference in Vegas, how many people roughly were there, just out of curiosity?
Like 120. Yeah, pretty good size. And I'm sure that Denver's very grateful that you don't have the same scope of noise problems that, say, Boston does.
They're just different.
Yes. But I think that's all from me on big picture updates.
Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking of the airport operations tracking, we do have that at Burlington, and the particular piece of software that we use has a really neat report function. And I do a simplified version. It's like 8 pages if you want to. It'll break it down into every category, a bunch of categories I haven't even thought of. But I include that in my reports to my city council every month with our basically bottom line numbers on overall operations. And it's a really neat thing to have. So I appreciate you guys funding that. Going around the Eastern Plains, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of projects coming up. Lyman's got a reseal project on the taxiway coming up later this summer. Akron just got done with a ramp expansion, and they've got an RFP for a new terminal building there. And I've seen a couple of renderings from some of the prospective contractors, and it looks pretty cool. And so I hope that they can get that built and keep it in budget, and that'll be a neat addition for them. Sterling, Charlie wanted me to make sure I talk about this publicly. June 17th through the 19th, they are a stop on the Air Race Classic, the only Colorado stop in 2025 for the Air Race Classic. And he could use some help. So Hetty, looking at you, Trimby, looking at you, you guys have a ton of contacts with those different organizations. They're looking for volunteers to help. I believe they're staying overnight. And I think he's in the process of getting lodging for all of them, but just a lot of logistical stuff. I don't know if this would be a great project for like one of even the aerobatic team at MSU or something like that, for a group of people that come out and help, or the 99s maybe. But he seemed a little stressed on making sure he gets them taken care of well. So please reach out at the meeting and let him know that I can use some volunteers to pull that off. And of course, that happens during our CAOA conference. That's June the 17th and 19th. So, but I know there's a lot of organizations in Colorado that are around aviation. I'm sure somebody would be interested in coming out. So, Fort Morgan, working on an apron expansion project. Lahana's got a runway rehab project coming up next year that they're getting prepared for. Talking to folks at Springfield, they've been trying to get this ramp expansion and taxiway project, but the cost keeps going up and they have to keep shrinking that down. I don't know, Dave sent out a video from Rocky Mountain PBS about the Flying Doctor. This was probably, a month ago or maybe 2 months ago? Anyway, about half of that video is at Springfield. The surgeon flies out to Springfield, and that airport is a huge benefit for their quality of healthcare out there. And if you guys haven't seen the video, you ought to watch it. That's Dr. Frankham that flies out there. He comes to Burlington every Tuesday.
From here, yeah.
Yeah, from here. Yep, from Spaceport. Yep. They are also this week getting a new fuel system card reader set up. They got a QT pod going up out there, Colorado company. So they're excited about that. Pueblo, Greg wanted me to make sure everybody doesn't forget the 2025 Wings of Pride Air Show, September 27th, 28th. Thunderbirds are going to be there. And also they're excited they got their essential air service carrier named Denver Air Connection. I believe they start service on May 1st. Let's see. Meadow Lake is in the planning stages for a public ramp area for next year. Burlington. We are knocking out our airport. I'm out there. So we're just on the tail end of our big project. We've got our new generator set and is operational. We've got the new reel lights that are operational. And Steve, I forgot to throw the old ones in the back of my pickup for you. One of these times I'll get
They
them.
will last. They've lasted.
Yeah, they'll last longer than we will. We are doing the last pour for the taxiway project on Friday. And then they've got all of the joint procedures to finish, the plowing the joints and the sealant. And I'm thinking the last week of April, we will put down the paint for the center lines and the hold shorts, and then that project will be just about wrapped up, so. The one more thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is an idea I had that I wanted to throw out to you, division folks, and just as an idea. I had a situation come up. I've been needing to get a AED, automated external defibrillator, really amazing life-saving tool, but they're expensive. And I've saw some that were like around $2,000 for one of these. And for a small airport like myself, $2,000 in a budget that, for the particular budget that would come out of is like $15,000 for the year, and we're always up the end of it, and I keep putting it off. But I thought, if I'm having this problem and I could use one, I wonder if all the other airports around here. So everybody that I called on in this particular airport, I asked them if they had an AED. And everybody but two that I talked to did not have an AED, and they would all be interested in getting one. So I'm curious if there's a CDAG grant opportunity or something that if you guys are interested in like providing these for public use airports in Colorado. That would be a really neat thing. I'm guessing if you buy them in quantity, you could probably get a good discount, maybe $1,000 a piece or something. And so you'd be looking at maybe $75,000 or less for a full, if we wanted to offer one to every airport in Colorado. So I don't know, just something to think about. I think that'd be really neat. Kudos to Luke at La Junta. He's got one. You guys have one, but you need another one.
We get ours from the county's help.
Oh, so you get one. So you don't even have to. See, we have to pay for it.
Del Norte has one, they just said, from Public Health.
Oh, okay. So I figured that might be something to look into if you guys are interested in doing something like that, so.
The battery.
Huh?
It's always too into the battery.
Yeah, there's the cost of that over time, but, just to get one in the hands of these airports would be pretty cool, so.
We're happy to talk about that, absolutely.
What's that?
I said we're happy to talk about that,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Cool, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So pilot organizations, I missed the last Colorado Pilot Association meeting, which I hate to do. You did too? I hate it. Do you feel empty inside? Anyway, so I'm lost on that. But we have had some great conferences, like Mark said. The Women in Aviation Conference was here in Denver, which was fabulous. I had a great time. Hetty, I know you did too. Dave was there as well, representing the state. And it was great to meet your granddaughter, Mark. That was great. The 99s had a conference that same week. I think it was in Texas. And let's see, Colorado Aviation Business Association has a golf tournament, I think first week of June coming up. Aside from that, my report's really short. I'm not updated on scholarships, which I will be by next meeting. And more of the events coming up. But for now, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On behalf of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the agency in the coming weeks is moving out an initiative to reach out to those populations that have been identified as potentially having greater exposure to lead. And that includes those populations within 2 miles of an airport. So the intent there is through this, it would be a mailer campaign, would be to encourage testing both for individual health, but also to gather more information cumulatively to better understand the impacts, of course, in these populations, to build upon the work that the agency is doing and really to continue to build upon a report that came out from the agency on this last year. And I can keep folks up to speed on that as we learn more. Again, I think that the intent is that would go out probably sometime around the end of the month. That's all I've got, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clay.
At 33 Victor, glad to report that we received a DOLA grant to match with the CDAG grant that was so generous to Jackson County. And my understanding is that bids were put out, or the work was put out to bid rather, at the beginning of this month. So we're extremely excited and hopeful that we'll get a new runway this summer. And that concludes my work. Okay, airport updates.
Mr. Chair, can I give you just a quick update on Zoom? It appears that Zoom is actually having a national outage, which is a struggle we're having. And so some people are able to join, but some are not. Currently, there's over 100,000 reports. Sean sent some information that it was a little spotty right now. So we apologize. Angela has not been able to pipe in yet. She's the one that cannot get on. I asked her to call, but if she pipes in, I will let you know. So apology. Oh, she's on?
She's on.
Oh, okay.
Angela, can you hear?
So we
Hi, guys. Can you hear
apologize.
me?
There we go.
She is.
All right.
Yep, we got you.
Thank you, and sorry, trying to figure out how we could log on, but I was able to listen to most of the reports thanks to Sean. If it's okay, I'll give my report real quickly.
Yes, please.
Great. Happy to report that the SAF, the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Feasibility Study for Western Colorado, is underway. This is a collaborative effort between multiple counties, including Pitkin County, Eagle County, and Mesa County. The feasibility study is primarily funded through a DOLA grant, and the feasibility study, the purpose is to evaluate whether there's enough fuel sources to actually have an SAF production facility, and that production facility would presumably be in Mesa County. So that's really all I have to report on that right now, but we're happy that the contractor has been selected, a company called, I think it's Savia. I haven't had to say it out loud, just read it. But we're really excited about that. And then the second item, just coming from the Grand Junction Regional Airport, and thanks Dave for sending this article around. We're really excited. Yesterday, our architects, Gensler, presented the conceptual design plans for terminal expansion of the airport. A couple of years ago, we updated our master plan, and this conceptual design basically takes the planning drawings, which are kind of boxes on a page, and turns them into building drawings, and we'll have accompanying cost estimates so that we can begin terminal expansion. That's all I have.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, any airport updates?
Why not? We just completed negotiations for a new flight school to be based here at CASP. We'll be announcing that here in a couple of months, but they're going to go through the FAA approval process to operate their flight school here. But they're going to bring in 10 aircraft straight from the factory that they'll be operating here, and then they're going to plan to bring more next year. So that's exciting. We're going to also be announcing a new company who's going to be taking over the old reaction engines research and development facility. They're a local company here in the Denver area, but we're pretty pumped to add them to our list of tenants. And then we have a number of pavement and taxway rehab projects to do this year, both CDOT and FAA bill grant funded. So we're gonna be kicking those off here in the next couple of months. And then for anyone who doesn't know, my executive assistant, Jerry Coyne, she's retiring. So if anyone knows her, today is actually her kind of going away party this afternoon that I'm going to go back to after this. But her last day will be next Wednesday. So if any of you guys know her, please stop by and wish her good luck. She's been out here for 21 years now. So we're sad to see her go. But, also excited for her to go enjoy her retirement. So. But other than that, we had our busiest year on record last year, 126,000 airport operations, so that's, we've been bumped up in the NIPIAS to now being a national reliever airport, in the same company as the Jeffco or Rocky Mountain Metros and Centennials. So that it just identifies how we're just continuing to gain business and grow as we're just on the edge of the Denver metro area here. So, and then with that, we're obviously working with CDOT this year to design a new fuel farm and also design an unleaded storage tank. Because we need to redo our fuel farm anyways, so we want to take advantage of that new program. And so the goal is for next year is to completely rebuild our fuel storage system here, which will include a tank for the unleaded alternative. So we're pretty excited about that. So thanks, everyone.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Big building over on the east side of 1735. Is that airport related, or is that off the?
That's within the Rocky Mountain Rail Park area.
Okay.
That's I forget the company, but I think it's Alpine. It's a lumber company. They're going to bring in raw materials on train cars, assemble like trestles and assemble different wooden, things and put them back out on trucks. So yeah. The perfect compatible land use for being right next to an airport. So we're all about it.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yep.
Is that flight school small or just big flight?
It's good. It's decent sized.
That's all you can say.
That's all I can say for the next month or so, the next couple months until we can announce it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They may or may not have bases at other airports in the Denver metro area. Yeah. They're not looking to relocate. They're just looking to open up a new base here. So.
If anyone's been able to join by Zoom, we've moved the agenda item for public comments towards the end of the meeting because of the problems with Zoom. Director's report?
Chair. It looks like Kevin Booth from Hayden has a report also.
Oh, please. Kevin?
Yeah, very briefly. Yeah, thank you. I wanted to take the opportunity while you're all together just to thank you for your recent grant. As you'll recall, you granted us $1 million for some work on our taxiway Bravo, which is going to feed our aviation business park. And that was timely. We have since received an $800,000 grant from DOLA that's going toward that as well. And that's allowing us to break ground on the 2nd of June of this year and make that project part of our parallel taxiway rehabilitation project, which is saving us on mobility costs and allowing us to afford the whole thing. And just in time, there's a complex of 7 hangars on one side of that taxiway and a big open bay 30,000 square foot hangar on the other. So we'll finish that up just as they cut the ribbon on those new facilities. So timing was excellent. Your support was really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Dave?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to a couple of Mark's comments, just a couple of things if you missed it, the 2 documents that he referenced, the letter, the multi-association letter, I sent that to all of you late yesterday. If you haven't seen that, that's in your inbox, as I did with the North Dakota study, which was pretty interesting. I haven't looked at it yet, but it did speak to the issues that they had with valve seat recession in their fleet that resulted in them ceasing the use of unleaded 94 and going back to 100 low lead because of the safety issues that they had flagged there. So if you don't get those, let me know, but those should be in your inbox. Related to the input requested of the Senate Aviation Subcommittee on Air Traffic, Senators Hickenlooper and Bennett also asked us for our division's input on that, which Bill helped me put some information together. So that's currently being vetted by the governor's office, and it focuses from our perspective, as you might expect, on digital towers and helping get the FAA to start moving that along. So I will share those comments with you when I share them with the senator's office, assuming the governor signs off on those at some point in the next day or two. So we'll be weighing in on that directly also. Not quite as long as that letter, but that's more succinct to us. So
I know they also reached out to airports.
They sure did, yeah, exactly. So they're doing a great job of doing that. So that's great. Just a couple quick updates. The NREL Alternatively Powered Aircraft Infrastructure Study. I got a text right before the meeting that may be able to be released publicly by the end of the month, which will be good. Right now, as I've been telling you for the last 6-7 weeks, it's been on hold due to administration direction on releasing public reports from a federal agency, which NREL is. So hopefully we'll get that out here in the near future. Every year, our planning team conducts regular airport pavement condition inspection and what we call 50-10 airport inspections at about 1/3 of our airports. So every year, or every 3 years, we'll get all of our airports inspected. And this year, they're spending time up in your neck of the woods, Kent. They'll be up in the northwest Colorado here starting in June. It's a pretty big lift for them. Some days they do more than one airport in a day, and sometimes at airports like Colorado Springs, it takes multiple days to do one inspection at the airport. But those are really important things that they do, because the data that comes out of that pavement condition feeds into our computerized database on pavement condition. It's one of the primary things that we use to prioritize where our funding goes for pavement maintenance. So great job with them again this year. And then the other data they collect on runway length and windsocks and lighting aids and navigational aids, all those things they verify, that goes into the FAA's database, which is the information that then feeds the chart supplement and all the other products that pilots use when they're out doing their pre-flight work. So have fun out there. It's a beautiful part of the world to get to. So really appreciate all their hard work in doing that. Todd and Bryce are going to talk a little bit later, but we do have a major maintenance transition happening with our mountain AWAS units. We have 13 of those across the state. Since the program's inception in the early 2000s, we contracted with other state agencies to maintain those for us. Initially, it was the Office of Information Technology. More recently, it was the Department of Public Safety, who has since said they want to divest themselves of all of that outside work. So Todd's been working really hard to go through that. We went through a procurement process, which at the state level, look at another state employee, it's never easy. Procurement's always a pain in the butt at the state. We got DBT Technologies as our new maintenance provider. They're a well-known AWAS maintainer across the country. So I think we're looking forward to getting them under contract and getting them up to speed. We recognize that in the transition, we've had some challenges with the availability of some of our AWAS units, most notably Berthoud. It's been out of service for quite a bit because it's always hard to get to in the winter, given its location. But we're looking at getting a little bit better service out of that going forward. So we'll see that. Last thing I want to touch on too a little bit is our division reorg and staffing update. I haven't really touched on that a little bit, but that's moving forward. You all will recall back in October of 23, it's hard to believe, you endorsed a new organizational structure for the board that created a deputy director position, added a new position that would focus on grant contracting and procurement, and also add some layers within our planning team to provide some levels of promotion and additional responsibility. So that all got put on hold when we were working on House Bill 1235 because we wanted to see how that bill would potentially impact those positions. So we're finally back on track with that. The first step of that, I'm proud to say, is complete. And as of the 21st, next week, Todd is now our official new deputy division director. So that was the first part of that. The new position request with HR for the statewide initiative contract manager position. So we'll keep you up to speed on that. But that also moves sometimes a little slower than we would like within the realm of state HR. Not blaming my counterparts, but just the way it works sometimes. So anyway, congratulations to Todd. It's really a role he's been fulfilling for the last many years anyway. So it's glad to see him get the recognition and the compensation that goes with that title. So thank you. The last thing I'll say, I know I've talked with you previously about potential tours for the board, Tracon, Denver Center, Pilatus Aircraft, NREL. Unfortunately, right now, FAA facilities are not accepting large tour groups, nor is NREL as a federal agency, and Pilatus is not doing tours either. So we're going to reach out to you with some other ideas. One that we have, I think, that's related to the things that we've done lately, is up at Ames Community College. We've helped them recently fund the startup of an aircraft maintenance program up there. They've got a beautiful hangar, beautiful program. They're doing a lot of flight instruction. Might be of interest to the whole board. So if you're interested in May, I'd love to see if you want to go up to the Loveland Fort Collins Airport where their operation is, and have Eric Kimler, the director up there, give us a tour of their facility and talk with some of the students up there and what Ames is doing. Not just with maintenance, they also have an air traffic control program as well. So is that something you're all interested in? I think I see heads nodding. I will have Caitlin reach out to you with some dates. I'll get with Ames and see, but I think that might be one in the interim. And I expect in the next couple of months, we'll see some of the federal agency tour restrictions start to open up a little bit. And we can get going on that. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Financial update, Bryce?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll go through this here. I will sort of go through the United part because the next part is a detailed update about that. So I'm not glossing over it. We'll dig in on that afterwards. But revenue-wise for March, revenue came in at $4.2 million. It was 97.1% of forecast, 4.4, up a couple $100,000 from February's revenue, 4.0. So the last couple months have been tracking normally what we would expect, which is a good part of the update, as a lot of those United filings have recently anyways. Revenue forecast, we always update at the end of the quarter, so this is the update time for it. We've really put it off all year, waiting for the United part of it. But we did update the forecast down to 50 million, which is a 12.3% drop from the original budget amount. Biggest factor in that is the decline of oil price since the start of the budget cycle. Now, there's obviously a little bit of conservative nature built into the United aspect of things there, but right now we're tracking right on the range of 50 million, which would be the second highest total in the division's history after last year. So down, but still extremely healthy, so we're excited for that. I will just kind of gloss the United part there, but yeah, so revenue is trending the way that we expect it to the last couple months, and we're expecting another strong April as well once those numbers come in. From a cash balance perspective, our balance finished March at 24.5 million. It was up 900,000 from the 23.6 in February. We were expected to drop a little bit, not necessarily gain a little bit on the cash balance. But really the big difference between the two is we just had a lot fewer drawdowns than typically was expected. Now I know from this week, we're catching up on them. So it was just slighter, lower pace of drawdowns than typically is during the month last month, but that just kind of comes and goes with the cycle. So nothing out of the ordinary. Pretty sure the cash balance we drop on this month as a lot of those payments come through. But overall, like I said, 24.5 million cash balance, we're very healthy in that aspect. Tax disbursements by month, we had 2.7 million in disbursements go out in March, 2.5 million of which are sales tax, 171,000 of AvJet, and 9,000 of AvGas. Did follow normal trends, nothing out of the ordinary there. I will flag a little bit ahead of next month as we catch up Denver's excise tax for the year, because the reporting from DOR is up and down on those. We would be cutting them a check one month and asking them for a check the next month. We just do their excise tax on a calendar year basis. And we did process that this month. So it's a couple $100,000 out of cycle, I guess, as you kind of look at these. So you'll see a little bit of a spike there next month, and that's the one out of cycle that we usually have. But other than that, everything's following the normal trends. Revenue comes in, expenses go out. Contingency analysis, as approved by the CAB, our 2025 CDAG program is at 19 million, and we're going to talk more about the federal match aspect of that today. Already heard about our cash balance funds, but we remain very healthy. The graph here shows that, our blue line is above CDAG programs. It's below the total programs, but that's the kind of enhanced risk portfolio we've talked about and upping the grant program based on our cash balance. Based on the fact that Denver's hit fuel flow records 12 straight months, which we'll talk about next. We remain healthy. Their oil, like we said, is down. It was $62 this morning, $60 when I put this together. So it is down from where it had been at the high, and continuing to monitor that. I know EIA has updated their forecast and told me 11% off it over the next couple until the end of the next fiscal year. So we continue to monitor that, but there's the trade-off with oil prices going down. Yes, fuel's cheaper, but there's more and more being pumped here. So a good offset there. Bottom line, we're in good shape for the grant program we have. There's no financial limitations to that. And we're already looking at and preparing stuff for 2026. When we get to the workshop here in August, we'll be able to come with a recommended number as far as that goes. Admin expenses, just a reminder, the 5% cap of FY24 revenue is 2.7 million. The budget you approved back in January of 2024 was 845,000. Right now, our forecasted spend is 760,000, so we're well below budgeted amount. We're well below the cap that we have there. I will just point out, and I mentioned it last month there, the graph looks flat month over month, which makes no sense, but that's because there was a wrong coding on some of the publication stuff that comes through. They always code to admin, so we had to journal entry it out. It just happened to be like exactly the number of what our admin usually is per month. So we saw the big jump last month. It's flat this month. Normally it would have trended properly. So it did exactly what we expected it to. We continue to be on pace. There's no out of cycle or anything out of whack there, but that's just why you see the flat graph there, which, again, without context makes no sense. Final slide, I believe, is fuel flow. I already, led with the oomph there. We're now 12 straight months of record fuel flow after March, which March numbers came in at 49.7 million gallons. That's up 15% from February's 43.2, and up 15% from March of 2024, 43.2 as well. So it was bang on what the fuel forecaster had given us from FSM. So yeah, it's doing what they expected. Obviously for April, we typically see a decline, and that's what they forecast again this year to 46 million, which would be a 7% decline month over month, 6% increase from April 2024. So their numbers again does look to be in line with what we would expect. No signs that the fuel flow to Denver is slowing down anytime soon. So we'll keep monitoring that. But yeah, the fuel flow is exceptionally healthy there, which gives us some stability from a financial standpoint. That's the end of the dashboards. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Like I said, if it is United related, that's the next topic here. So I can answer any questions now, or I can do this, and then you can hammer me with all of them, whatever you want to do. Go ahead.
I have a question that requires a crystal ball, so please don't feel like you have to answer it. I feel like I keep hearing that everyone's, with the economy the way it is and the safety the way it is, people are not buying tickets and not flying. Is that just like what we're hearing, or are you starting to see that like start now? Because I feel like if anybody's gonna know the reality of what that looks like, it's fuel sales at Denver.
Yeah,
like, is anybody seeing that now, or?
Absolutely some. I think we've all probably heard at some level. I know I saw the stat that government travel was down like 55% or something, and I'm flying off the hip here, whatever. It was something in that ballpark. That decline in air travel isn't super applicable to Denver.
Okay.
You get into areas, DC, New York, where, that's gonna hit the airports pretty hard. Steve, you can jump in and correct me if anything I'm saying is wrong here, but I think Denver's watching it. I don't think they're projecting a huge decline that others are because of the uniqueness of Denver as a hub, really. It's a tourist destination and it's a hub. So while I would personally suspect it might drop a little bit, I don't think it's going to be impactful to the degree that it would be almost anywhere else in the country, really.
And that's kind of, I think, well stated. One thing we've been watching, it's just 2 months, which doesn't really make a trend yet, but it's kind of flattened out. We've seen this incredible growth, way more than we're used to over the years in passenger traffic. It's kind of leveled out a little bit. Don't quite know the cause of that yet, but one interesting thing that we're watching is Southwest Airlines, the changes that they're making, some of which are really odd. It's like they've thrown out their past success story and are trying to be like every other airline in a way. And one of the things they're doing here in the next couple of months is shifting to more of a banking system where they come in and have those peaks during the day, throughout the day. Those line up a little bit with United. So that's scary to us because it's going to seem outrageously crowded at certain times of the day. They're also cutting back on some of their flights. However, at the same time, they tell us that they're balancing that with larger aircraft, so the seat numbers aren't being cut back. So it's really just one, kind of like you described, I think, really well, something to watch, but not as likely a hard a hit as it would be to some of the other airports that are in a more pigeonholed kind of traffic patterns.
Very much a unique position here. And for yourself and for all the board here, the way our forecasting works in really kind of a dynamic sense, if something happened where Denver dropped 20% traffic next month for any number of factors, our forecast is going to immediately pick that up and apply it out with the normal month trending, but give it a new start point. So we built it that it's going to react really quickly to something, unless we know what it is, we know it's a short-term thing, and we can, and I have in the past, notified that said, hey, this is what this number was, this is what I've plugged it in at to move forward. We did that a lot during COVID, like every month we would talk about that. So it's built to dynamically reflect in reality, and if we have to manually adjust that based on industry knowledge, what we have, what the board's given us, what we're hearing, we'll do that and communicate that very clearly to you guys, because we don't ever want to just, we're gonna change this number to this. We would give full context. You'd have a full segment on here where we would be discussing it. So it picks up any trends really as soon as they happen. As soon as that trend hits us, the rest of the forecast adapts to that. Again, unless we tell it not to.
If I can add one other thing, I just thought about this. So Southwest, since I mentioned them specifically, I thought I'd throw out, they still seem to have a really, a commitment to Denver, because they've been putting in infrastructure like the hangar they just built. They built a cargo facility, several facilities, including a training facility in Aurora, but right next to the airport. So the indicators are that they're still committed to Denver. So just thought I'd throw that in since I mentioned them.
And one other fun Southwest thing too is they have basically curtailed their fuel hedging program, where they're trying to predict the market. They'll try to buy low, sell high kind of thing, right? But they haven't been super successful with that through the year. And they did announce, I think it was about a month ago, that they were basically doing away with that program, which from our perspective as the division, from the revenue thing, makes it even easier because it's gonna trend in line quicker. I know in the past there's been some, these numbers don't look right, why, and then you gotta dig and try to find, okay, what did they hedge at and things like that. So just something unique to Southwest that they've canceled, which again makes our forecasting even better many times.
Well, the last thing I might add to that, and I always have to remind myself too, is that we only keep 1/3 of the money that comes in. The biggest impact when we see a decrease in fuel revenues is in the disbursements to the airport, because that's where 2/3 of our revenue goes. So you all unfortunately see the biggest impact, and then we'll end up looking to draw back future grant programs to align it with that. That will always happen in August for you new board members. We do that as part of our workshop. That's where we'll walk through, Bryce will walk through the budget recommendation for the grant program for the next calendar year with all the detail, all of our best guess. I'm really lucky because we've got a really seasoned team that's been here a long time. We've lived through COVID and survived just fine and kept the division in good hands, and very astute, I think, eye on everything, both subjective and objective when it comes to setting our budget levels so that we're able to make our commitments and articulate any changes in our grant program well in advance of what airports expect.
Other questions for Bryce? Okay, let's go on to 8.2.
All right, so again, talking about United Airlines and the fuel tax update. As you know, I've been providing regular updates throughout fiscal year 25, as we did identify pretty early in the new fiscal year that something wasn't right. There's something missing here, and come to find out that United had switched from purchasing their own fuel, being their own fuel vendor basically, to diversifying their procurement strategy, using multiple fuel providers. Sinclair's got a piece in there, Suncor, potentially Valero, amongst others. So we've been working with the DOR to try to identify basically trends. Like United has been 45 to 50% of the fuel flow at Denver for a long time. Pretty consistent numbers too. So we had a good baseline to go on. Now as we're finding out, well, pieces of here, pieces have been here, we've kind of adjusted that and actually bounced against Southwest. Well, okay, Southwest number, they're traditionally X%. So here's what we can be expecting to lose, or the one we're missing. So working with Barb Schaefer at the DOR, she's going through Denver's billing records and payments currently, United's, sorry, to pinpoint the precise sources of the missing filings and on her end to expedite corrective action to those that have not got their filings caught up. I mentioned earlier the last couple months, we're where we expect to be revenue-wise. Sinclair's caught up a few filings from December. Suncor has as well from January. So we're seeing kind of normal process now, but there are still 3, 4, 5 months of, these numbers don't make any sense, filings from earlier this fiscal year, which they're working on going through there. Based on all of the estimates, data that we have, historical forecasts, fuel flow metrics, things like that, right now I'm estimating the discrepancies between to be anywhere between 4 and 7 million. That's revenue we still think we're going to capture, ideally this fiscal year. That wasn't there. Like Dave mentioned, the actual impact on the division is 1/3 of that number. The rest is Denver, unfortunately. But So the number has come down from what we'd been reporting earlier, as we found, okay, well, this one's been actually doing this, and this one's been doing this, so we kind of reversed engineered our way into, all right, this is probably the real number of what's out there, and they've caught some up here too, 500,000 at a time here, 600 here, so it's trickled in that way. DOR's been great to work with. They're very much aware of the sensitivity of trying to get this captured in this fiscal year for us as it pertains to with the budget office at CDOT and the way that they do budget, which isn't necessarily conducive to us. It doesn't line up with us, that operates more like a business, but we have to fall in line with a lot of their fiscal rules and policies. So trying to capture that revenue here so that we're not having to make adjustments to FY26 programs or asking for budget adjustments to line up with what we're going to do in 2026 from approval standpoint. So that's really kind of the complexity of trying to capture that stuff now. But just to give you guys, like I said, the additional context as to what's happened there, what's going on. The good news, and I've kind of said this from day one, is we literally caught it the first month it happened. We were at the workshop in August. I said, hey, I don't like July's numbers. Something, and even then July is always wonky. I said, these are really wonky. And then when we sent the update out in September, we said, no, there is a problem. Something's United not filing. And so we were able to work with DOR to first identify what that is, and now they're going through the process there to try to identify specifically what the misfilings are, which I do not envy her because there is a ton of filings, as you can imagine for fuel transactions for United, specifically in Denver. So we're on top of that. We'll keep updating you guys in great detail at every meeting, but just given the lateness of the fiscal year, I wanted to give a more specific United update rather than have it just wrapped in that financial dashboard. And plan to continue to do so until it's resolved.
Hey, Bryce, is there any process change that we can make or tool that we can put in place that would proactively alert us to this kind of a situation instead of having to react?
Honestly, I'm not sure outside, because we get the fuel data from FSM every month as far as this is the total number that's going to flow. As soon as we see that revenue report, okay, well, this is missing.
Okay.
So really the process did what it's supposed to. We knew there was an issue. We were able to follow up. Is it taking longer than normal? Yes, because it's such an impactful one, and the way they did it wasn't like they switched one vendor. If they switched to one vendor, this would be a lot easier. It's okay, what's going here, what's going here. There's even concern out of the Department of Revenue that, well, they might actually be coding stuff to their facility in Aurora. There's still sales tax, fuel that should be getting sales tax applied, so they're going through all that. So honestly, I think the process worked. It's just slower getting it done, and that's because I don't have the teeth to do that. That's on the DOR.
Do they audit themselves, or do we audit them on a transactional basis? Make sure that they're
transactional basis.
Make sure that they're all the filings that are captured.
On a transactional basis, that is something we don't have the teeth to do.
Yeah.
But I have made it very clear to the Department of Revenue that that's the end result we're expecting out of this if we're not happy with the number coming out of this, and they are on board. And it has happened in the past. Shortly after I started, I know they did an audit of Southwest because Southwest filings did make sense and did come up with things, a couple million in extra revenue from that. So that's why we track all the vendors at Denver there, because I'll flag some of them there, and it gets 12 months down the road, and it still hasn't happened, and I'll kind of pin them with that. So personally, I would be surprised if there isn't some auditing being done by the Department of Revenue with the involved parties that have taken over the filing here, but that's not something that we can actually do.
My last question is, can we request the Department of Revenue to do an audit?
And that has already happened. Any other questions?
No, but thank you for staying on it.
Yeah, no,
It seems like a nightmare.
United jumps off the page. There's lots of times, and honestly, the fuel vendors have been great in the last, let's say 5-6 years of filing on time. Before we talk about manually adjusting numbers, the fuel flow, I would be manually adjusting it every month because Southwest didn't file this month, or United didn't file this month, and that does this fuel flow, where we would say, okay, well, this is what it should have been, and we would, because we want to show the reality, right? So that's how it used to work, where I would notify the board, okay, this is, the actual number is, this is what the real number is likely at, so we can show trend lines that mean something, like what you see on there. So we haven't had that problem in years, but when I first started here for the first 2 or 3 years, it was almost every month where it was a massage number, a term I used to use, to try to show an accurate trend line, because that's what we need for forecasting, what you guys need, and for us to be able to identify things. So we've been lucky for the last 3, 4, 5 years that it's been pretty consistent. You know, once in a while there'll be $100,000 filing, which isn't on there, which really isn't impactful, so we're not too worried about it, and then it catches up the next month and does the other thing. But yeah, United jumps off the page at you for sure when that starts missing, and we're expecting 5.5 billion and 2.5, what? So that's, yeah, part of the process, but that's why we've built the model the way that we have, is to identify if those of us, like we said, model is, hold on, something's wrong here, and we can chase that out.
Thank you, Bryce. Let's go to 8.3, administrative updates. Skip.
All right, I will make this quick so we can get back to listening to more from Bryce. So I'm going to give you your grant administrative updates. Good afternoon, Chairman Holsinger and members of the board. Today I have 3 items to discuss. One actual grant amendment and 2 new internships. So first on tap is Yuma Municipal Airport has requested and been administratively approved to amend grant 24-2 with $1,156 in additional state funding, and that is being delivered to them to help them match the extra federal airport improvement program funding that was delivered to them by the ADO this year. Next is the first intern grant, and that is taking place at Durango La Plata County Airport. And DRO applied for and was administratively approved for funding to support the hiring of 1 candidate for their 6-month airport operations internship program. We are providing 50% match on a $22 per hour wage. And finally, Grand Junction Regional Airport has a new internship. We have approved funding to support the hiring of 2 candidates for a 12-month airport administration and operations internship programs. And we are providing 50% match on $18 per hour wage for each of those employees. And that concludes my brief. I'm happy to answer any questions we have.
Great. Thank you, Kip. Bryce, back to you.
All right, back to me. So this is a motion that we're looking to take action on to add an additional $175,000 to the FY25 Mountain AWA statewide initiative. For context, the board had approved $200,000 back in January 2024 to the Mountain AWA statewide initiative. At the time of that approval, we were unaware that DPS was not planning to renew their contract with the Division of Public Safety. With Mountain AWA statewide initiative. So with less than a month's notice of DPS's plan to end their agreement with the division, we were able to, Todd has been able to negotiate an amendment with DPS to ensure that it was maintained through December. Since then, we've been working to get a replacement vendor, going through the procurement process as far as that goes. But we have finalized a solicitation effort, and DBT Transport is like we mentioned here, going to take over the maintenance of the system. The annual cost of that is estimated $161,980. The reason we are asking for $175,000 and that we're asking for it this late in the year is procuring that, additional costs that might come that are outside of the scope of that. It's really a budgetary move more than anything. We don't want to have to wait until FY26 hits to be able to proceed with getting this up and running for safety concerns and things like that. So just to make sure we have the budget room, because we don't have for the full contract, not knowing what the payment terms and things like that are going to be. We're just being proactive here, making sure no matter what happens with that, we don't have to wait and delay. So we are asking for an extra $175,000 in funding for this fiscal year, just to make sure that we don't have delays as far as getting that paid on the street and up and implemented. So I don't want to call it a paper transaction, because it is more than that, because it does have a contract yes, it's late in the year here, it just, we have a little bit of unknown and we don't wanna be scrambling come June at the next meeting or having to wait till June or whatever that is, so that's the timing reflection of this. We will not be this will fit within the already approved amount for next fiscal year. We're not gonna be asking for additional funding on top of this for that. That's all been accounted for. Like I said, this is just to help us get through this fiscal year so we don't have to, come do an emergency meeting or do this in June kind of thing. So that's the intent of this. Todd, feel free to add anything if I've missed anything, but looking for board to take action to approve an extra $175,000 for the Mountain AWAS statewide initiative cost center.
Would entertain a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question. So I noticed in there, it said that they won't be covering spare parts, that we'd have to pay that as we go. Did DPS have any spare parts?
They did.
Captured them?
They did. Multiple truckloads came out, so I have a lot of spare parts currently in our storage unit, 2 hangar rows back. I look forward to giving those, our plan is to kind of have DBT, once we get under contract, to come out, do an inventory of what we have, to be able to use what we have, to be able to fix everything right now. But the one piece of this we didn't really talk about is each of these units was installed in 2001. They're getting quite old. So we will be coming back to this board at a future time period, sometime next fiscal year, once we talk with DBT and kind of come up with a roadmap forward, where we are gonna start replacing some of these units just whole, like they're old. They have some age on them and they're in a miserable location, so.
What typically breaks on them, Todd?
Honestly, it's the sensors themselves, but we're to the point where the whole system itself is all goes to one processor, and that processor really is not serviced anymore, and so everything will have to be kind of redone to the new processor. It's called an AW20, I believe, and we have AW10s, and so most of the airports have had to make this transition as well, and I will say we have done a great job pushing off this transition just by our previous state workers found ways to fix things in very interesting ways, but to keep them certified and things. But DBT will be pushing that process to replace these units over the next few years. So this will keep that going. Again, it's a spare parts, so we do have some. We'll do our best to get this going. I look forward to getting Berthed back on too. It's been a nightmare for me. I get calls weekly about it. So
What's the approximate cost for the new replacement units?
for a brand new one, not with a pedestal, I mean, we're looking probably $137,000. Yeah, I make that face too.
So we'll discuss in August with all of you. We're gonna develop in consultation with DBT sort of the internal capital plan for our AWAS, because we can't do all those at once. Over the next years, prioritize those and do that. I would say, Mark, to your question, I think we see wind sensors are typically the biggest individual sensor that fails. And of course, that's one of the most important ones on AWAS. So I think getting the upgrades will definitely increase our reliability and hopefully lower our maintenance costs going forward.
It's crazy to think like the cylinder itself is $38,000 itself. So it's pretty painful when those go out. But I have a few of them in the storage units. We're good to go with that. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Great. Any more discussion?
Chairman, this is Angela Padalecki on the phone. I will abstain from this vote since Grand Junction's internship grant is part of this action.
Angela, we're not quite there, I think.
That one didn't need action.
Yeah, that's 9.2.1, I think, where Grand Junction specifically is part of the grant request. This is just to approve the AWAS budget amendment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood and thought these were all together on this action item.
No, not quite, but thank you for chiming up. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Great. Okay, Mr. Deputy Director.
Congratulations again, well deserved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So I am happy to announce this is round 2 of our 2025 Colorado Discretionary Aviation Grant Program. So this is actually a follow-on to the first round that was approved by this board back in January for our state and local program that accounted for just under $13.8 million. So this round accounts for our federal match and overmatch grant applications. And so what that is so our airports that get federal dollars, they come 2 different sources right now. from the Airport Improvement Program. And then they also, there's also a chunk of funding from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Program as well. And so both of those programs right now are actually at a 95% federal, 5% local. That has changed for 25 and 26. That used to be mostly 90-10. Colorado Springs is still at 90-10 because of their hub status. And Denver's also at a different percentage. But all of these grants are coming in at that 95-5. And then what we do for the local community is we cut that local match requirement in half. So it ends up most of these grants being 95% federal, 2.5% state, and then 2.5% local. We do cap our AIP match, which is entitlements and discretionary funding at $250,000 each year. But with 2.5% match, you can actually get a $10 million project in before we actually hit that cap on the AIP side. And then we actually don't cap the bill money at all, the bipartisan infrastructure law funding at all. So with that piece alone, so just matching on those two separate pots of money accounts for $2.7 million in applications. And then new this year, we also have included our Overmatch piece to this as well. So once in a while, there's high enough priority projects statewide that are getting federal funding that we also try to add additional state and local funding to those to either try to expand the reach of those projects. So instead of doing just a small piece of taxiway, we're going to do the whole taxiway, things like that. Or we're able to kind of plan for them to save additional their federal money until a future year as well. And so we actually have 4 Overmatch projects in this set as well that accounts for $1.8 million. So what's kind of fun about this round, it accounts for 29 airports have submitted applications to us, totaling $4,473,931 at those 29 airports. And that accounts for leveraging $89.2 million in federal funding. So quite a bit of money coming to the state for that. And then when you add in the local component of just over $7.5 million, those 29 airports will hopefully realize just over $100 million in projects statewide just for this round of grants. So with that, go to the next page, and in your board packets, I did include actually a list of every one of the grants as well, so you can kind of read through those. You'll see kind of those Overmatch grants. You'll see one of them is for a runway in Cortez. 2 of them are actually taxi lane extensions. One's right here at the spaceport, and one is at the Harriet Alexander Field in Salida. And then another one, we're doing a big pavement maintenance project in Trinidad. And so those projects kind of met that priority where we wanted to add additional money to those to make sure we got a full project. So, so with that, we are requesting today approval of that $4,473,931. But I'll kind of combine that with January as well, so you can kind of see full picture. So when you add that into the January approval, we actually have an $18.3 million state and local program. And combining that with the federal and local as well, it gets to about $120 million. And that's 57 grants to actual 46 airports. So pretty cool. If we can go to the next page on this. Yep, so that kind of sums it up for you. Huge impact, again, $120 million worth of projects statewide over both of these rounds. And then the next page is, like I said, this is my favorite map. This shows you where all those projects are taking place. So as you can see, the projects are all over the state. Sean, I don't even remember which color's which on this map because there's so many circles, but.
So there's the green circles, which are right around here.
Our unleaded, yep, our unleaded fuel program grants.
Blues are gonna be your state and local grants, and so orange is the federal match that just got
I probably shouldn't ask the colorblind guy to. That's okay.
I see the number 67.
Yes.
Is that the right answer?
I'm kidding.
Oh gosh, I was like, crap, I don't have a 67.
It's a bad joke.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. So today, we are again looking for approval of this second round purely, the federal match and overmatch program, accounting for that just under $4.5 million. I will be asking for it in a couple different approvals again for possible conflict of interest. So the first one is all of the grants except Grand Junction. which accounts for $4,171,300. So I am looking for approval of that amount first. And that accounts for 28 of these applications.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I have a question about.
Kevin?
So Cortez, the Overmatch for 500, did they originally, was there an FAA grant request, or how did that, why, just a little background on that one?
Why the random number?
Yeah.
Great question. So, yes, so they are actually getting $6.6-ish million in AIP funding. It's actually discretionary funding that's going to help rehabilitate that runway. And so we are matching that funding, the 1.73, but we are adding additional funding on with that one as well. And I believe, Scott, am I correct that that is to extend some taxi lanes as well? To kind of give you some background, when the FAA funds runway rehabilitations, they only come out to the hold line
So it's
at the
not,
runway.
so the full price of the 321 rehabilitation is not the 500 plus, it's a much larger number that's not reflected.
Much larger, so it's actually the combination of that almost $7 million on that third line plus our $500,000. So in total, this project will be just a little more than $7.5 million.
Got it.
But yeah, we're able to add that additional money because again, they have to stop at the hold line, and so there's another 100 feet of taxiway that's not getting done. And so we're able to go in and add additional funding. So it actually makes sense for the project. And so we're not leaving about 100-foot section on each taxiway unfulfilled. It's really paying for us to go out and inspect things where you go from a brand new runway to a not so great taxiway very quickly. But
Okay.
Great question though.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, and now for the second approval, which has a possible conflict of interest, is for the Grand Junction Regional Airport. Theirs is for a build project for their terminal improvements, and then also some AIP funding for their big runway projects for their new runway. So that accounts for, I'm looking for approval of $302,631 for the Grand Junction Regional Airport.
Do we have a motion?
So.
We have a motion. Was there a second?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? All those in
This is
favor?
Angela Patsy. I will abstain from the vote.
Thank you, Angela. All those opposed?
Thank you very much. And then we'll go to the last one that puts everything together. I am looking for approval of CAB Resolution 2025-04. That approves all of these combined for a total of $4,473,931.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the,
Resolution 2025-04.
thank you.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Great. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let's move on to agenda item 10. Eddie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is an action item, require a motion, and it's for approval for the Colorado Airport Operators education application totaling $45,000. So just a little background, CAOA regularly hosts training opportunities for airport staff throughout the state. Most recently, CAOA hosted a Certified Airport Safety and Operations Specialist, or ASOS, training group to the state for a 4-day ASOS training that included the basic event sections of the training. And to further their education opportunities, CAOA requests an additional state grant totaling $45,000 to provide airport staff training courses during this upcoming calendar year. The CAOA Training Subcommittee proposes to offer a AAAE Airport Certified Employee, or ACE course. And it's a program, it's a Part 139 based curriculum intended to educate and challenge airport personnel with airfield operations responsibilities. So just like all of the other educational grants, this is a 90-10 state-local split as well. So if there aren't any questions, we do recommend a motion to approve the CAOA education grant application totaling $45,000.
Chairman, I just want to speak up in favor of this. It's a really great training opportunity for all airports in Colorado. I'm going to recuse myself from this vote just because I'm on the CAOA board. And yeah, I support it.
I didn't hear that last part. Thank you, Steve. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Hetty.
Thank you.
Okay, item 11, Dave.
Another standard annual item, Mr. Chair, for all of you, and it's approval of the FY 2026 Division Professional Development and Out-of-State Travel Plan. Again, just by way of background, every April you all approve this, and it is for the next fiscal year. It includes all of the costs associated with planned trips outside of the state for division staff, along with the cab chair designee at the two NASAO conferences that we attend each year. Includes a number of professional development opportunities for staff, including our NASAO annual convention in September. And as always, we work really hard to make sure every member of our team has an opportunity to participate in some way. I want to make sure that we note this does not include travel, attendance at CAOA, or anything related to in-state travel, like for their PCI inspections they'll be taking off here in June. So this year, we're continuing to include and show the participation at the EAA AirVenture Oshkosh event in this plan. Even though you all approved the budget for that separately, we want to make sure we have all of our out-of-state travel in one document, so that is in here as well. So with that, the proposed FY 2026 professional development plan, less Oshkosh, totals $40,950. That's an increase of $9,050 from this year's plan. The majority of that increase is due to the fact that the NASAO conference this year in September is in Anchorage, and it's a little more expensive to get there. Lodging and travel is going to be a little more costly than when it's typically held in Grand Forks, North Dakota, in place in next year. So we'll see that go down. So again, standard approval. If you have any questions about that, if you can read the Excel spreadsheet on page 42 of your packet, you've got a great vision plan, but we're happy to answer any questions about that. The one that the chair will sign and that we'll share with all of you will be in a much more visible format.
Is there a budget in there for PPE in case of volcanic explosion or anything?
That's funny, man, where that would.
Got everybody covered.
Exactly, right, yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, from a budgetary perspective, this isn't adding anything to our budget that you approved back in January. The professional development costs that are there, Oshkosh, the other cost centers and stuff that are hit, you've already approved the total amount. This is just us saying, this is how we plan to do it, so we can get your sign off. Previous administrations, we would have to go through CDOT on this as well. But this is really just us making sure you all are aware of what's coming up, and then that way when there inevitably are any adjustments moving forward, we can informationally say, we took this off, we added this on. Like that. We're not adding any actual budget to already planned spend. This is just how this specifically is getting allocated, just for maximum visibility for the board.
Great. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks, everyone. Okay, item 12, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item will be consideration of an aviation state infrastructure bank loan application for the Grand Junction Regional Airport. And I need to start by apologizing to our new members, because this is one of the things that we did not cover in that lengthy orientation, because these are pretty infrequent that we get a loan application. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background just to make sure everybody's up to speed. But since 1999, CDOT has managed 3 separate low-interest revolving state infrastructure bank loan programs, one for aviation, one for transit and rail, and one for highways. Since that time, the aviation program is really the only one that has seen any capitalization or any use. There's no funding available in the transit and rail program and only about $5 million in the highway program. Ours right now with forecast accrued interest has a value of almost $34 million. And it's been a really, really great tool for eligible airports with eligible projects to get low interest funding at a max term of 10 years, in addition to using federal funds or some other program that may not even have funds available. So it's been a really valuable way to do it for us. We have added several contributions of our fund to the SIB program to help airports like Durango get loan funds. Right now, the interest rate is 3.5%. I wish I could get 3.5% money. That's pretty cheap. The Transportation Commission sets that rate a couple times a year. It's remained fairly static for the last year or so. So one of the things that we did last year under a process improvement plan is that it used to be that the Transportation Commission approved all of the SIB loans, and we went to the TC, worked with them, worked with Executive Director Liu to modify that procedure where now you all are the sole approver for aviation SIB loans. From a technical perspective, you all do not get into the financial due diligence. You do not get into doing debt service ratios and all of that. We're only here today to approve this loan for Grand Junction on the technical merits of their project. So I will pause right there and see if there's any questions on what the SIB program is before I talk a little bit about the process going forward.
Is the 3.5% over the lifetime of the loan?
Correct.
Or does that fluctuate?
It's a fixed rate, and then all of the interest from each loan goes back into our program, so as the more money we get out, the bigger it grows. Correct. So it's a great program. Right now, we have 6 airports that have outstanding loans. All of that $34 million is on loan, except for about $2.8 million. And I'll explain the math here in a minute, because you're going, wait a minute, that's $6.5 million. Right now, we have loans out to Centennial, Rocky Mountain Metro, Colorado Springs, Durango, Telluride, and Grand Junction. When I first got here at the division 10 years ago, I got challenged to fix this because at that time we had no airports with money, and it was a really cumbersome process to get the loans. We worked really hard to do that, and so we're really happy that we went from having all this money just sitting in the bank doing nothing to being out doing cool stuff at airports. So Todd's been a key part of that process improvement over the last 10 years, and it's really been a great program. So the way the process will work under state statute and CDOT procedure is you all approve a loan, and then there is an SIB, a defined SIB committee. And for aviation loans, that SIB committee that does look at the financial aspects of the loan consists of the CDOT CFO, myself, a designee from the CAB, which you have all appointed previously as Mr. Van Tine, Vice Chair Van Tine, and then CDOT's Director of Office and Management and Budget, or their SIB manager, whoever they decide to do that. That's the group that will look at Angela's numbers and make sure that the debt service coverage is there and that the state is comfortable that Angela can make her debt payments over the next 10 years on this loan, given all the other things going on at the airport. So when we now, in this new procedure, ask all of you to approve a loan, it will be contingent upon a favorable recommendation by the SIB loan committee, which will happen after your approval. Once that's done, assuming it's approved, loan contract documents are executed, loan money goes into escrow, and we're off and running. So that's kind of the process for aviation loans. It's much more efficient. It used to be you would approve a loan, and then I had to take it to the TC and explain to all of them from square one what was going on again, and we had to wait often 6 weeks to do that. So the process is a lot faster now than it used to be. We're really happy about that. So today, we are here to staff support of the Grand Junction Regional Airport $6.5 million loan application. Again, I go back to say there's only $2.8 million in the aviation account right now. Well, we were successful over the last month in working with the Transportation Commission and the CDOT CFO to agree to a temporary one-time loan from the highway loan program to our loan program. Nobody's using the highway money. We might as well use it. Borrow that money internally, and then as new loan payments come back in, regardless of which airport, that money will go back to make the highway program whole, and we expect that will take about a year or so. We were very happy the TC approved that inter-fund transfer last month. CDOT was very supportive. Executive Director Lou thought it was a great idea. We appreciate her support, that of Jeff Sudmeyer, the CFO for CDOT. So long story short, we have enough money in the account to support this loan. And this program, which I know Angela will be happy to talk about, Sean, if we could go to the next picture. You heard a lot about what's going on in Grand Junction with Angela, and they are looking to rehabilitate their existing commercial terminal parking lot. That's the area in gray there to the south of the terminal building, which you see at the north center part of that diagram, and also add, because they've had so much growth in air traffic there, which is really cool to see, new paved parking there in white outlined with dash line south west of the existing lot. So this loan program would support those two programs with construction scheduled to start at some point this summer. So I will pause there again, Mr. Chair, and maybe Angela has anything to add or something I missed from her perspective. No. Angela?
From my perspective, I think you should present for me more often, Dave. So I thought you did a great job. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I've got an odd one.
Sure.
Is it going to be paid parking? You're going to collect for parking revenues? Or is it free?
Yes, paid parking, and we do collect parking revenues.
And then the solar, that's part of this as well, right? Or is it just happens to?
Yeah, let Angela talk about that.
This loan application, we anticipate, because we don't have bids yet for the parking lot expansion, we expect it'll cover the cost for construction of the expanded lot, plus some major maintenance we need to do in our existing lot. Obviously, it's really hard to do maintenance in a parking lot that's full all the time. So that's what we expect the scope of this loan to cover. We do plan to next year add covered parking that has solar on it. And that really basically the center section of the dark gray parking lot you see, which, you know, puts you in the prime parking spots to support the airport terminal. And there we'll have covered parking that has solar on top that will, it will not directly feed the terminal. It'll go on the grid, but it'll fully offset the consumption in the terminal. Plus it'll have electric vehicle charging stations in it. All of those things are really important. At an airport like ours, we don't have the same trends that a lot of other airports have, where fortunately, we have not seen Uber and Lyft or taxis or other modes of transportation take over at the airport. And that is simply because we serve a huge geographic region. So having adequate parking is really important, and it's almost catastrophic for passengers when they come to the parking lot and there's not parking available. That actually happened last Thanksgiving, and we had to just provide some free parking using an extra lot from a tenant and have people here directing passengers to that location. So that's our timeline, and appreciate so much the CDOT team getting this pulled together so quickly so that we can make sure that there's adequate paved parking before Thanksgiving.
Okay, thanks.
So, Mr. Chair, the staff recommendation on this would be to move to approve CAB Resolution 2025-05, approving a $6.5 million aviation SIB loan application from the Grand Junction Regional Airport dated March 11, 2025, contingent upon a favorable recommendation by the SIB Loan Committee.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion? All those in
Chair,
favor?
this is Angela Padalecki, and I will abstain from this vote for obvious reasons.
Thanks, Angela. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep you posted on the committee meeting. We've already worked to try to set up some meetings either next week or the week after. We're going to waste no time to get this loan moving forward.
Okay, great. How about item 13, industry update?
Fortunately, Chris is not able to join by Zoom because of the Zoom outage. I've been communicating with him. He's been trying diligently, so we will see if we can get him to come to CAOA in June and give us an update at that moment. He apologizes, and so do I on behalf of Zoom everywhere.
All right. Sorry about that, Chris. Item 14, program updates. Scott?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just a quick update, we're finally in the home stretch of this economic impact study. Well, it's gonna be about 14 months long and we're about 2 weeks away from finalization. I did include the market progress report in your packet in case you wanted to see the details. But all of these are waiting. We have all of our technical report received and are finishing our review. And as soon as we do that, everything will be done. Everything's on the website currently except the technical report. And that's all finalized. So we're looking forward to, in a couple of weeks, sending out a notice to everybody in the community that it's all finished and available on the project website. Anybody have any questions?
Great job.
Thanks.
Okay, 14.2, Hetty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again. So we've had over half of all of our approved grants, education grants have been executed, which is a good sign. And we have had quite a bit of outreach events since the last board meeting, which probably close to 9 different events in the last 2 months, which is surprising. So Mark mentioned the Redbird migration, where Dave was actually a keynote speaker. He did a fantastic job, and lots of people commented on that. I still get people saying, "Oh my gosh, your director is just amazing," and everything else, and I'm not just saying that. As you can see in the pictures, we did attend the Aerospace Day at the Capitol, which was fantastic. In the second or middle pictures, you'll see a bunch of kids from DSST, and these are their CubeSat projects, of which the CAB approved for an education grant. So thank you again for that. It's pretty cool to kind of see something tangible, not just something in theory, like, hey, we're gonna put these cubes together, put all of these experiments on there and send them up in a weather balloon. And they will be launching those probably in May, just here. So that'll be pretty exciting. I'm hoping to go out to that as well. In the last column, you'll see we were able to attend the Women in Aviation 36th annual conference. We held a booth. I was able to have a educators workshop. It was a 3-hour workshop on the first day of conference, and then we had a flight simulator for the Girls in Aviation Day on Saturday. So it was a very busy week, but it was exciting. It's so amazing to see the huge turnout. It seems like it grows every year. So, and I'm sorry I did not get to meet your granddaughter. Sorry. So we actually have a few events coming up. This Saturday, I'll be hosting the NASAO Center Education webinar, and that is with the Academy of Model Aeronautics. So if you have seen any of those emails come across with NASAO, definitely jump on. I think we have close to 90 people signed up for that webinar. So, and that is countrywide. So anyone can sign up and it's free. Actually, here at CFO, Higher Orbits Go for Launch, which was actually canceled from earlier last year. They'll have that this month, the 26th and 27th. And the CSU Rams Aviation Club is finally going to have a fly-in at Crispin Field that same weekend, unfortunately, but that's really exciting. And Dave could probably tell you all the history about Crispin Field.
You're all familiar with Crispin Field? It's really cool. It's owned by Colorado State University. It's the oldest operating airport in the state of Colorado. It dates back to the mid-1920s. Used to have an aircraft manufacturing facility there, and it was the original airport for Fort Collins and Loveland up until CU bought it and took it private. So we love that airport. We don't get to support it because it's privately owned and not open to the public, but they recently secured a grant from the college to rehabilitate their runway, and they will make it available for single engine air traffic or air tanker firefighting aircraft if needed, which is really cool. And then they've got an amazing public safety drone program as part of CSU's curriculum up there where they're teaching folks to run. I'm not talking like the little drone like Sean and I have. I'm talking big enforcement search and rescue drones that fly off that runway. If you ever want to get up there for a tour of that event, it's really cool. And they did indicate that they do plan on making it available for prior permission fly-in by the public for that event. If you've never been to Crispin, it might be your only opportunity to do that. So we'll put you in touch. I see a couple of pilots nodding if you want to get up there. It's really a historic airport. It's got one of those old 1930s, I'm a whole history buff, old 1930s Quonset hut that smells awesome.
Dave, do you know, was that Forney aircraft?
It sure was. They used to make air coups there. They sure did. And there's a great picture of Eleanor Roosevelt when she was First Lady getting off of I believe it was a Cessna Bobcat, a UC-50 at that airport, and standing on the wing at that airport when she came to give a presentation in Fort Collins back in the 40s.
How interesting.
It's very cool.
My grandfather worked for Mr. Forney for a time. And as I understand, he started his business when rural electrification happened. He followed the power poles selling welders to ranchers like my family, and did really well, and then manufactured aircraft and a number of other things.
It's an awesome place for sure.
Yeah, incredible.
Glad to see him preserving it and keeping the legacy going forward for a new and kind of cool purpose.
Very good.
There was one event that I just found out about, so it is actually not on the list in my memo, but that is Greeley is having a fly-in on June 7th, and it's hosted by BAS Air Parts. So, and that is on the same day as the Centennial Airport's Runway 5K. So.
Great. Thank you, Hetty. Digital Tower. Bill.
Okay, this will be a fairly quick update. The digital towers right now, RTX, AKA Raytheon, AKA Collins, and Frequentis are in the middle of doing batch testing. They've gotten through batch 0, and they're in batch 1 now. The FAA, for some unknown reason, has all of a sudden taken a real interest in this project. I'm not sure why that is, but I appreciate what they're doing. There have been no real issues found with the system itself. The system itself basically mimics what we had done up at FNL. Now, the problem comes in with the documentation. The AJW Technical Operations FAA is running this program, and it's going to be, this equipment is all going to be non-federal. What that means is the feds won't own it, the feds won't maintain it. But they're trying to make the documentation mimic that of the federal programs. And having gone through a couple of those myself, that is a quagmire that is really tough. The documentation is going okay. The problem they're running into back there is the same thing we did, which is requirements creep. They, Frequentis and Raytheon did their documentation originally for release 4. Release 4. They're now up to release 5, and we'll be releasing release 6 in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So they're having to go back, and if you look in that PowerPoint that was provided, you'll notice that some of those things they say are complete, but they have 90% there. You go, I don't think 90% is complete. But what that means is they're going to probably have to go back into some of those documents and update them to take care of whatever's being done. Now, the next thing that's of interest is this, is the Digital Tower Center idea, which is, there was a little write-up in y'all's packet. I'm sure y'all all read it. There weren't any real good pictures in it, but it was a pretty exciting read. If you haven't read it, I'd suggest you go home and get yourself your beverage of choice and read it, because it's a page turner, I'm telling you. But anyway, that's the concept there, is to be able to get multiple airports into a single facility to consolidate them. That has several things. Next month, you'll probably see some more information. I'm in the process of doing another bill paying paper, which is going to be a real, I'm sure, and any of y'all want any autographed copies of it. Anyway, that's pretty much what's happening now. So any questions, comments?
I would add on to Bill's comment, it's really cool. There's such great interest from our Western Slope airports, Hayden, Durango, Gunnison, Telluride, and digital towers they're just growing like crazy. This digital tower concept, I think, might be the next iteration of something cool that we get involved with to try to help that happen. And it's got a lot of benefits. We've actually created a separate working group with those airports. We met this morning to get an update and see what they're up to and what their challenges are. But, the idea is that for the Western Slope, potentially there could be one control center at, let's say, Grand Junction, where it's less expensive for controllers to live, the data is good, and you could have a control center there, control all those other airports. It's a really cool concept. And as Bill alluded to, unfortunately, the recent issues regarding air traffic in our country have really kind of driven, I think, new attention on this. So for better or for worse, that's nice to see. And I know your tongue-in-cheek comment about they're finally paying attention. I think we have an opportunity to really get them off dead center on this, either for one airport or potentially for even more. So we're looking forward to continuing our efforts with this.
But one other thing, Chris DiAcosta was not able to make it today. He is coming to a group that I have, which is the corporate pilots group. We meet at Centennial. And if any of y'all would be interested in coming, I'm sure Dave can arrange him, because Chris is going to come to that meeting and give us an update on where they are on development of the 100R, which is going to be, the thing holding him up is the ASTM certification.
And he did say that he would be at CAOA, either virtually in June, so.
Should announce the date and time of the launching.
Yeah.
No, you should say what is the date, the time of the launch?
Oh, it's the second Tuesday, and I don't know exactly what the date is, but I think it's the 13th of May.
That's correct.
And it's a free meal, so I know any of you pilots in here will come to it for sure. But I think it's going to be interesting to see his perspective on where the unleaded fuel situation is, especially given with the GAMI situation that we've seen run into, and then the ASTM certification. So anyway.
I'll get the information from Bill and forward it to you. If you're interested in going, please let me know, because if more than two of you go, I'm gonna have to notice it. So it's a public meeting, so I wanna make sure we're keeping Barb happy with it. But Bill, I'll send that to you as soon as I get it from Bill.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Legislative updates.
I really don't have anything of note, Mr. Chair. I think the one thing that I would touch on very briefly is Congress is in recess until the 28th. One of the big things I have to undertake is appropriations for FY26, including the funding that was authorized under the FAA reauthorization bill that was passed last year. One that has really risen to the top of the airport interest list was actually appropriating funding for the PFAS mitigation language that was in the FAA bill. It provided $350 million over 5 years for airports to buy new firefighting vehicles to help fund the transition to fluorine-free firefighting foams, to dispose of the older PFAS-based foams. CDPHE a couple of years ago set up a program through the legislature to have a buyback program. I understand from talking to your counterpart over there that runs that program's in a little bit of financial duress given the state of the general fund right now. They're looking for all the money under the couch cushions, and there may not be all the state money available for airports to avail themselves of that there might have been. So we will likely work at the appropriate moment to support with our federal delegation from our division's perspective, a letter encouraging Congress to fully fund the PFAS mitigation program to help airports with that costly environmental mitigation program. So stay tuned on that. We'll see how that goes, but it's definitely a high priority for the airport community for sure.
Can I maybe just kind of ask, maybe with on that state program, would you be able to just kind of check into that from your end? And I guess my thought after talking to them and kind of dealing with them in our situation, it is a hugely valuable program. Even though we're pushing for the FAA to provide their funding for what they've supposedly put in place, I still think that state program is just really important. And I think that some of it, it sounds like, is hesitancy to spend the money because they've got other plans for it and they don't want to get behind the curve. And yet it's continually refreshing. And so I don't know if there's something that Bryce could do, for example, to just help explain to them how effectively we can keep pushing money out the door without putting the program at risk. Maybe it will give them enough confidence to move forward with it. It would help us, I think, as airports.
And I grabbed Clay before the meeting. He and I are going to connect with David Danny, who's the emerging contaminants coordinator within CDPHE. They're kind of separate, silos within your organization. It'd be like me talking to bridge people within CDOT, I think would be the analogy I might use. We don't necessarily all talk to each other. So we'll get together on the same page. That's certainly part of the engagement we'd love to have with CDPHE.
And Mr. Chair and David, thank you for that. And maybe not quite as far apart as bridge and aviation, but not such a bad analogy. But as Dave said, he did flag that. So we will follow up, and then maybe we can follow up with you specifically. I think the whole group would be interested in that as well, Dave. So let's do it. And I did mention Todd as well. So I can run my traps, and if you can, and maybe we can all circle up.
And I will say too, Den is about to throw in for that. And it's kind of two parts. One is the $40 per gallon. That's one. The really important part is picking up that old PFAS foam and hauling it away and disposing of it. They've been waiting on a contract. Sounds like they've got one that's just being finished up. And yet they won't separate the two. So we're about to put in for it, I think, from Denver's standpoint. And I just hate for it to stumble right at the last minute, so.
And we've committed, we've really enjoyed that we're about a 4-year relationship with CDPHE on PFAS. The first one being the statewide initiative you all approved. You remember, for the foam testing cards that allowed the airports to test their firefighting foam without the need to spray it on the ground. That was our first engagement with CDPHE on that. It was pretty cool. So we'll get together with David, and then David has also agreed to come to CAOA and give an update. He thinks by then they will know more how the state budget is shaken out at the end of the legislative session, and we'll have some more info based on what the actual stuff is. And he's been awesome to work with. So
yes.
Thanks.
Okay. So for the board, the reference I made to the Gamebird aircraft that Metro has, that's the picture of it. That was donated to them last year. So quite a donation.
It was a long day of flying. My long legs don't fit in the front of that airplane very well. I was really uncomfortable by the time I got out of that.
We're really gonna be okay.
Be okay. I gotta say though, on a personal note, Mark, you made note of the donor. At the time the airplane was acquired by Metro State, my better half worked for Metro State, and she was the one that raised the money for the aircraft all by herself. So I kind of have a little affinity for that on a personal and professional basis, but it's a really cool airplane. They've already put almost 400 hours on it. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. They're literally flying the wings off of it, Mark.
And it was reported that he did not use the barf bag on the flight to the.
We were just flying in formation, but I got to tell you, sitting on that parachute with my legs straight out in front of me and no room to move or to wiggle your butt, my sit bone. And Jagmar was like, "Let's go do aerobatics," and I'm like, "Can we do that another day?" Anyway, but that's awesome. It was a great day, and Sean got to do aerobatics in it, and again, that's one of Sean's pictures. Thanks for the state picture. Was our photo ship that we really appreciate it. So.
Amazing. Great.
Proposed calendar.
Let's do that. You bet. Again, CAOA is June 18th to the 20th at the Grand in Steamboat. Caitlin has reached out to you already about room logistics, so keep in touch with her and get all that finalized. We'll get you all squared away there. I expect that our general meeting will be on that Thursday, the 19th in the morning, confirmed with CAOA, but right now that's not official, so stand by that it will be either that Thursday or Friday. The conference actually starts Wednesday evening with a reception. This is the first official thing on the agenda. And then our real big heavy lift every year is in August, where we do an all-day board staff workshop. It's just an informal opportunity for us to touch base with you on a variety of things. For you new board members, I'll send you what the agenda was last year, so you can kind of get a flavor for what we do there. And then that's followed by our regular meeting the next morning, and that will all be out here. So that's the next meeting. I was confused looking ahead to October. I had made mention that Angela had invited us out to Grand Junction for the air show. That's next year. Not this year, I misheard. So what we would love to do is talk to you all potentially about holding our October meeting. We have not been to Southern Colorado in a long time, and I think the Pueblo Airport would graciously love to host us. They've got an incredible museum that would be a great venue for our meeting. They've got some new terminal work planned. They've got a new airline providing service there to Denver that's really exciting. Greg Pedroza, the airport director, is super engaged in that part. The community loves the airport. So if you're up for that, we'd love to pivot our October 16th meeting, I think it's the 16th, to Pueblo if you all are up for going downtown. I'm seeing head nods. We will make that official, and we'll start working with Greg and his team to do that. Great. Cool.
Okay, we're going to move to public comments. We're asking folks to sign up before the meeting for public comments. Just a reminder, it's public comment. It's not a Q&A opportunity with the board. And we're limiting comments to 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, we put 3 up there, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay, thank you. 3 minutes for public comments. And we had Adrian Nye request to speak. Adrian, are you with us?
Not on with us today.
Okay.
I think he had Zoom issues.
Okay, Brad?
Yes, sir. You ready? Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you folks. Brad Walker. I live in the town of Superior. I know that at the meeting in January in Denver, a gentleman from CDOT made some comments to the board, specifically to the new members, but it's also a friendly reminder to the board about conflict of interest. Don't hold yourself out there, presenting as if you are an individual, but yet you do represent Colorado Aeronautical Board. I know that Mr. Kevin Ryan, everyone in my community knows that he is a member of CAB, and nothing wrong with that. But I find when he goes and talks to Town of Superior City Council, and then surreptitiously turns around and goes talk to my neighbors, both parties who have lawsuits against Rocky Mountain Metro, perception sometimes is reality, and that doesn't look bad. It kind of makes the board look bad. In the worst case, it could implicate the board and pull you into something. I know, Ms. Lehman, you talked about being out in California and being at the airport meeting. I know that you attended the board, Boulder Airport Association board, and you said that I'm a member of the community, I'm here in private, but yet you were wearing your name tag, the same name tag that you have on your blouse today. So when you say that you're a member of the community, giving comments, and at the same time you're wearing a name tag with the Colorado Aeronautical Board, the perception is that you're representing the board. And given the fact that Colorado National Public Radio says that you're the leader of Save Our Skies, when you go and send comments to packets of information to Jefferson County commissioners asking for landing fees, touch and go restrictions, other operational restrictions, unleaded fuel, the perception is that you're representing not only yourself, but you're also representing the board, because everyone knows that you're a member of the Colorado Aeronautical Board. Having said that, your comments today about being at the airport convention, I think when you advocate to say you're going to coordinate communications between this board, members of CDOT, with Eric Peterson and other members, what you're really saying is that you're taking a position.
30 seconds.
Yes, sir. You're taking a position. So in the worst case, perception is reality. In the best case, perception is reality. In the worst case, it could implicate the board and pull in some kind of entanglement with the board. I would suggest that Mr. Chair and Mr. Ulane, that you have a presentation at the next board meeting about maintaining conflicts of interest and maintaining that there is no perceived conflicts of interest. I think that benefits everyone. So, thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, anyone else for public comment? Adrian's still MIA?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
There are no others online.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go to item 17, other matters.
I have one.
Bree?
if nobody else had one. Okay, well, I think this was inevitable, and I think this is part of, it was gonna come up at the passage of the new bill, and I think having community members on the board and all of this, at some point, this conflict is gonna come up. I don't have an answer to this question, and I wanted to bring it before the board so that we could find answers, and I think that the answer is probably not today, but I want to bring it to the attention of the board so that we could consult and come back perhaps for a discussion of what the answer is. You know, the email went out to everybody a couple of months ago about the board applications, and I asked this question for a reason, and that Rocky Mountain Metro Airport certified that they were in compliance with their navigation easements when they applied for their grant for this year, which I voted on because they did not need to be in compliance with those easements for unleaded fuel infrastructure grant. And obviously it is the priority of the community to fund unleaded infrastructure transitions, so that is, I believe, the community's priority. It has come to my attention and is my understanding, and I'm not a lawyer, so this is not a legal opinion, that they are not in compliance with those easements. So if that was to be the case, and I would like somebody's legal advice, which is why I'm glad we have a liaison for that answer. If that were to be the case, what is the board's responsibility with regard to that information moving forward?
Okay.
That's the question. And again, I realize that that's probably not something we can answer here and now.
Well, we might well be able to.
Yeah.
So the issue of compliance, as you know, is being litigated.
Yes.
It's been litigated since 2020.
Yes.
There's litigation ongoing.
Yes.
So the only place that the question of certification and whether their certification is, quote, valid or not, will be answered is in the courts. This board doesn't have authority to say whether or not that is correct. They have certified that it's correct. And we don't have a judicial function, so that's a matter for the courts.
Yes, so that's based on my understanding of the court ruling, which happened. They vacated half of the easement, which would indicate that half of the easements are still in effect.
The litigation is still ongoing with opportunities for appeal. So until the 9 members of the Colorado Supreme Court tell us yay or nay, this board has no mission, no authority to do otherwise.
So my understanding of the court case is that one that's ongoing now. Okay, so the original court case was people suing to vacate the easements. And the court, and this is my understanding, so if I've got this wrong, if somebody who knows better can tell me. The original court case was to vacate the easement. The judge vacated half of the easements. That was appealed to the Colorado Supreme Court. And that was finalized, and now the current case is only those easements that were vacated and the rest of those easements are still in effect, is my understanding.
I don't know about the specifics, but I can tell you if there's a trial court case, it's appealed to an appellate court. And then would be appealed to the Colorado Supreme Court.
So that's the one I'm talking about, was the original one. And the Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal. So it stands as half of the easements vacated and half of them remain in effect, is my understanding. Which is why, and that's the question that I want to ask the greater group, is that if we have that, which is sort of this weird state of like, there are still some easements.
No, I don't think that's correct. And I don't think until all of these matters are litigated to fruition that any of us can say they are not in compliance.
And this is why, is this a question for our legal counsel, because I'm not a lawyer, maybe you're a lawyer.
I am a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer to the board.
There you go.
So I guess my question is, they checked the box and said that they're in compliance. Who has the authority to come back to us and say that that is incorrect? Is it?
I know, and I realize the board's not an enforcement
Exactly.
Right, I mean, I think, here's the issue, I think. We're talking about a grant that was approved in January for unleaded fuel, which has also been approved by the governor. So it's gone through the full process and it has actually been signed. Your application is complete. When the new legislation went into effect with the changes, I'll just read the statute off so that we all know what it says. But it's 43, or CRS 4310-108.5. And in that, there's section 2 that talks about the new requirements, that it talked about certifications that had to be made by, I call them the affected airports, the 5 that were in the densely populated residential areas. The fact that there may have been a certification on the loan application or on the grant application is one thing, but it wasn't required. Because under 4310-108.52H, it specifically talks about all those other requirements about being in compliance with the noise abatement programs, all of those things, does not apply to money expended for an aviation project that is for an international airport, Steve, or that is determined by the division to be directly utilized towards the transition from leaded aviation gasoline to unleaded aviation gasoline, including but not limited to improvements, additions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that certification for that particular grant application was not required in the first place. So, I would say that, the whole purpose of this legislation was to promote that and to prioritize unleaded gasoline for these 5 affected airports. So that needs to be, I want to make sure the board understood what the actual statute says. You're the ones that make the decision, not me, but I'm telling you that it wasn't required for them to make the certification in the first place. So.
Which, again, is why I voted for it. I know they didn't, that was not a requirement for this, and so absolutely happily voted for it. I guess the question is going forward.
Until they submit another application, I don't see that there's an issue the board needs to address.
Okay.
Because you don't have any enforcement capability as a board. You're not out there to look and see who's in compliance with what. That is not the role of this board under its statutory duties and responsibilities. So until they submit another grant application where they would be required to do that, at that point, it would be something, they would submit their application, and if there was an issue then, it would need to be addressed at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we're just ahead of the skis, so to speak.
Okay, perfect. I was asked the question, so I wanted to bring it to the attention of the board. I'm happy to share, if anybody's curious, I'm happy to share the information I was given so that we're operating from the same jumping off point if you guys want to have the same.
And if things change in the courts, then that's something we can talk about then too.
Okay, I just, I didn't know what my responsibility was, what the board's responsibility is, and I don't want us to be caught off guard somehow or put on the back foot if we were to be in that position for some reason. So I wanted to bring it up so we were all on the same page. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
That makes sense.
Mr. Chair, can I address that really quick? I do have some legal comments on that.
I'm afraid we're past public comment.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Are there any other items from the board? All right, very well. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Had to drive over.